We'll get two minutes, two minutes, and we'll start. Yulia, we need to stay the traditional 2 minutes late, don't we?
Yeah.
We can't be on time now.
It's a thing.
We're 16 weeks into lockdown. We can't start being on time now.
Oh my goodness, no. So I've lost some of you. Oh, that's all right. They'll probably come back. There's we're coming back. We're coming back. Right. Should we do a big count? We're going to do a countdown. We're going to do a countdown. Are we ready?
Yeah.
Yes.
Are we ready to count? Are you going to count down with me?
Yeah.
You can all shout. 10.
Yeah.
9.
9. 8.
8.
7.
7.
6.
6.
5.
5.
4.
4.
3.
3.
2. 1.
1.
Lift off. Whoa. Now, you've been joining us for some time now, haven't you? For weeks now. It seems a lifetime that you've been with us, Little Miracles. But so welcome once more to the World Storytelling Cafe. And it is with enormous pleasure. And anyone else that isn't Little Miracles out there, welcome as well. And it is with enormous pleasure that our storyteller for tonight, let me introduce her. Can we have a big hand for Pauline Cordner? She's all the way up in Aberdeen.
Yay! This is really exciting. I'm so happy to be here at the World Storytelling Cafe again. Well, you know what? Can I tell you something?
Yeah.
There's not just me here. Now, some of you might have seen her before we went live, sticking her head up. When you live in Scotland, which is where I live, all the way up at the top in Aberdeen on the east coast, sometimes you have to put up with little pests.
Yeah.
Fairies, midges. I know you call them midges down south, but in Scotland we call them midges, and they bite us everywhere. Now, you never invite a fairy into your house, because when they turn up and they just don't leave. And when they just don't leave, oh, you're here. Hi there, everybody.
Hi.
I'm Fizzy the fairy. Now, the problem about Fizzy is that she can get a little bit excited. So if she gets a bit too loud, I want you all to say, calm down, Fizzy. Can we have a bit of a practice? 1, 2, 3. Calm down, Fizzy. Oh, it's going to be so great. Can we tell them about some Scottish creatures now? Well, yeah, you see, I did check 5 minutes before we came live. I was supposed to be doing Scottish stories, so that's okay. We've changed a couple, haven't we? Yes! Now, I want you to shout out if you can think of any strange creatures that live in Scotland. I'm just going to put it onto the view so I can see anyone. Does anyone know the name of any strange creatures that might live in Scotland? Creeper. You know what? I was walking down Union Street the other day and I saw this creeper was coming towards me. It's a thing that young children do, John. Spiders. We have good spiders in Scotland. We couldn't do without them. They inspire kings and everything. Tarantulas. I love tarantulas. They're my favorite kind of spider. What about something bigger?
Zombies.
Zombies. You know what? I've never seen a zombie in Aberdeen. If it was, it would probably wearing a kilt.
I've seen one.
You saw one. Now, I think that Max, is a story you need to tell us later on. Anyone think of a strange creature that's famous for being Scottish that lives in the water?
turtle.
A turtle, bigger than a turtle, longer than a turtle.
Rhino.
A
Is
rhino.
it
There's some of those in the zoo.
does
What's
it
that,
live in
John?
a loch? Loch.
Donut.
It does live in a loch, yes.
Has it got a long neck?
It's got a long neck.
Loch Ness.
That's it. Do you know about that? It's the Loch Ness monster. Well,
I
Fizzy,
seen it on Inspector Gadget.
that's it. He was up there visiting the monster. Now, Fizzy, will you sit down while I tell them this story? You see, I'm going to need your help with this story. And I know already from hearing what you've told me about tarantulas and zombies that this is going to work well. You see, it's only a few days until the people in Scotland are allowed to leave their houses and have a holiday. And I was thinking about that, and it reminded me of the time that the Loch Ness monster went on holiday. You see, the Loch Ness, very big and very deep, and it's connected to the sea by a little canal. So she kind of sucked herself in, tried to get into her pre-lockdown clothes, and in the middle of the night she slithered and she slinked all the way to the ocean, and there she swam and swam all the way around the northeast coast of Scotland, and she came to Aberdeen, and she could smell the delicious food that we have here. Yes, I'm talking about deep fried Mars bars. Oh, but she didn't know how to get to them. So she swam up one of our rivers. Now, if I wasn't here in my storytelling room, I could stand up, lift up, if there wasn't some houses in the way, I could show you our River Dee, which is just outside my house. And she decided that she would swim up the River Dee. And up she went, and up she went. And soon she reached this bridge called the Bridge of Dee. It's a good name. And she slunked around under there, and she waited and she waited, because by now she had no idea where the fish and chip shop was, and she was hungry. But then something came across the bridge. Can anyone guess what might have come across the bridge? Who wants to tell me? No, the Loch Ness monster was under the bridge, but someone was coming over the bridge. What do you think it might have been?
A person.
A person. Who was it?
Me.
Was it a lady? Was it a man? Was it a little boy? Was it a girl?
Little boy.
It was a little boy. Okay. So the little boy was skipping across the road. It's pedestrianised for this story. There wasn't any traffic. He wasn't in danger. And he was halfway across the bridge when he heard a great big rumbling. And up came the great big massive dinosaur-like head of the Loch Ness monster. And she said, "I am the monster of the bridge over the Dee, and I'm going to eat you for my tea. A 1, a 2, a 1, 2, 3. But the little boy said, "Oh no, you can't eat me for your tea." Because he was a very clever little boy. "You are a great big monster with a great big tummy, and I'm sure it was great before lockdown," he said. "But you won't want to eat me because I'm so small." And the Loch Ness monster said, "Oh, that's a very good point," she said. "Well, you may as well cross." And the little boy went on his way. And the Loch Ness monster slunk all the way back down underneath the bridge, and her stomach grumbled. She was hungry. Who do you think, or what maybe, came across the bridge next? What else goes over bridges?
Goats.
What was that?
Goats.
Goats. Goats are always crossing bridges. They are. So was this 1 goat, 2 goat, 3 goats, 4, 5? What do we think?
5.
5 goats. Daddy goat. There was mummy goat. There was granny goat, because there's always a granny goat that nobody talks about. There was a little boy goat called Billy, and there was a little girl goat called Nanny. And they were going across the bridges, and we know how goats go across bridges, don't we? They go trip, trap, trip, trap, trip, trap, trip. And
You
the
know
trip,
what I
trap,
got
trip,
the
trap
idea?
was so loud.
Did you not know that? Do you not know how I came up with the idea goats?
How did you come up with that idea?
Because of that story of where the goats crossed the bridge and there was a monster under it.
There was a troll, wasn't there? Well, and they tricked the troll. That's why it's a brilliant idea that you suggested that. So the Loch Ness monster, she could hear the trip, trap, and up she came with her great big dinosaur head, and she licked her lips. And she said, I am the monster of the bridge or the Dee, and I'm going to eat you for my tea. A 1, a 2, a 1, 2, 3. And she was about to eat the goats when Granny Goat said, no, you're nae. You're nae going to eat us. Now, on our heads, Mistress Monster, you will see some great big horns. Have you never eaten a Toblerone? If you eat us, your horns will stick right up into the roof of your mouth, like when a human bites into a Toblerone. And it'll hurt you incredibly. And wee Billy Goat said, in any way, I don't think she knows about the troll that Max is talking about. You never pick on goats crossing bridges. So the Loch Ness monster said, okay, you can cross. And trip, trap, all the goats went across the bridge, and the Loch Ness monster went back underneath the bridge. She was even more hungry this time. Now, who was next to cross the bridge? Can anyone think of something?
A unicorn.
A unicorn! Oh, well.
An adult unicorn.
And what?
An adult unicorn, which is very big.
A grown-up unicorn with a great big long horn. Yeah. So, the unicorn is actually Scotland's national animal. And there's a lot of them about in Aberdeen. I've seen some, especially down at the river. So this unicorn was on her way, and she was crossing across the bridge when up from underneath the bridge came the Loch Ness monster, who shouted, I am the monster of the bridge over the Dee, and I'm gonna eat you for my tea. A 1, a 2, a 1, 2, 3. No, said the unicorn. No, you're not. Tell me something before you eat me, said the unicorn. What's that? Said the Loch Ness monster. Do you not know who I am? I am a magical creature. And if you even think of licking me with your tongue, and the Loch Ness monster put her tongue back inside her mouth, then I will turn you into a slug. And the Loch Ness monster didn't fancy being turned into a slug. So quick as anything, she went back underneath the bridge and she hid. Oh, she was so hungry by now. Oh. What came across the bridge next?
A cow with no horn.
A cow. Yeah, so the cow came across the bridge. And the cow was walking across the bridge. And do you know who was with the cow? It was that man, John Rowe. He was with the cow. You're always taking cows to market, aren't you, John?
I do indeed.
Yeah.
And I'm always changing them for useless things like beans and violins and stuff.
That's what happens if you take cows to market. You always get some completely weird thing in return, and usually it leads to a story. So the cow and John were making their way across the bridge because they knew exactly where the chip shop was, where they could get their deep fried Mars bar. The cow was quite partial to one of those. When the Loch Ness Monster heard them. And the Loch Ness Monster came up from underneath the bridge and said, I am the monster of the bridge over the Dee, and I'm gonna eat you for my tea. A 1, a 2, a 3. And John said, hang on.
Hold on.
And before John could say anything, because the Loch Ness Monster was absolutely fed up with this, do you know what she did? She reached out her long tongue and she scooped up John and the cow and swallowed them. Don't worry, that's not the end of the story. It can't be, because he's there, isn't he? Well, John said to the cow, I don't know about you, but this reminds me of the story. And John started to tell the cow the story of the man that was swallowed up by the whale. I'm sure you know it. And you know what? That story reminded the cow of the time that his auntie had been turned into something by a fairy. And John, I know that reminds me of this story. And the stories went on, and the stories went on. And the Loch Ness Monster was underneath the bridge thinking, will that too ever shut up? This is worse than indigestion. But they went on, and they went on. And actually, the Loch Ness Monster was like, but then what happened? And then what happened? And in the end, the Loch Ness Monster enjoyed the stories so much that she thought, I can't digest this poor man and his cow. And with a little bit of and a little bit of and a little bit of a rather damper, more slimy John and the cow were coughed up onto the top of the bridge. And after a few more stories, the Loch Ness Monster was feeling a lot more relaxed. And because he's such a nice man, he promised that he would get her a deep fried Mars bar supper. Do you know what that means? It means you get chips as well.
Chips as well.
You get chips as well. Sometimes you get a chip supper, and that means chips with chips. Brilliant. And John brought a chip supper complete with a deep fried Mars bar for the Loch Ness Monster. And that was what happened on her holiday. She hasn't come back since, but if she does, at least she knows where to get her supper from. There you go.
Whoa. I'm gonna cut in here a second, because while you were telling that story, the world storytelling bus changed drivers. And the bus is that magical that it was in Romania at the beginning, and now it's down in Marrakesh. So can we all wave at our new driver, Abdu? Hello,
Hi,
Abdu.
Abdu. Nice to meet you. Isn't that amazing?
Abdu's driving the bus. Don't let it go off the side of the cliff, will you, Abdu? Yes.
No, don't worry.
And nobody stand up when we go under that low bridge, okay? Everybody sit down.
Yeah. Well, okay. Yeah, I just thought it was worth mentioning that, because otherwise you might wonder why there's a different person in the driving seat.
Yeah, that would be quite confusing.
Oh,
now,
and we've got a hello from Italy. Pinocchio says hello too.
Hello.
Always Pinocchio. Back. Sorry. Oh.
We've got Fuzzy. Fuzzy,
I'm terribly sorry to upstage you.
It doesn't take much to upstage Fuzzy. If Fizzy's the party, Fuzzy's the morning after. Now, Fuzzy, do you want me to sing after doing that story?
Yeah. Say hello to Louis. Louis joined us during the story as well.
Hi, Louis, and we've quite a few other people joined us. We've got Kirsty, Louis. I see Louis. And I think if I go swipe, Karen, Lauren, Isabel and Jessica. So big hello to everybody that joined us. Now, Fizzy wanted me to sing a song. Now, yeah, I know. Is it because it mentions the word brown? Right, okay. So this is a song that I usually sing with my friend Natalie when we're at Glastonbury together. It's a bit of a strange song, but it's a song that the Scottish children used to sing when they were playing out on the street. And it's got a funny chorus. And the chorus is, I'll buy you a hokey pokey. Hokey pokey means a bundle of sweets. But no, a roly poly. So a roly poly is a really sweet, sugary thing that you eat. And welcome. Sugar alley, before you got fizzy juice like Coca-Cola.
I've tried the roly poly.
Yeah, people used to mix up sugar and flavouring and drink that. Buy your roly poly, sugar alley, hokey pokey. That was it. So when the Italian ice cream makers came over and lived in Scotland, they used to offer people a taste, which was un poco. And the Scottish ears, we thought that said hokey pokey. So that explains it. And it's about a girl that's not sure what dress she's going to wear.
I had a different type of roly poly.
Really? You're eating the tasty brownie, aren't you? Because Fuzzy, my friend, is definitely a brownie. Right. Oh, who is this that you've got, Louis? I don't know if anyone can see it, but Louis has a monster friend as well. That's fantastic. Right, I'll crack on with the song, will I? Oh, mother, would I wear my broom in the day? Oh, no, I wouldn't wear your broom, Jeannie Jenkins. Oh, I wouldn't wear your broom for to gang into tune. But I'll buy a roly poly, sugar alley, hokey pokey, got a right, Jeannie Jenkins. Oh, got a right, Jeannie Jenkins. Oh, mother, would I wear my green in the day? Oh, no, I wouldn't wear your green, Jeannie Jenkins. Oh, I wouldn't wear your green. It's nae fit to be seen, but I'll buy a roly poly, sugar alley, hokey pokey, got a right, Jeannie Jenkins. Oh, got a right, Jeannie Jenkins. Oh, mother, would I wear my reed in the day? Oh, no, I wouldn't wear your reeds, Jeannie Jenkins. Oh, I wouldn't wear your reed, it's the colour of your bleed. But I'll buy a roly poly, sugar alley, hokey pokey, got a right, Jeannie Jenkins. Oh, got a right, Jeannie Jenkins. Oh, mother, would I wear my yellow in the day? Oh, ach no, I wouldn't wear your yellow, Jeannie Jenkins. Oh, I wouldn't wear the yellow for the colours our mellow. But I'll buy ye a roly poly, sugar alley, hokey pokey, got a right, Jeannie Jenkins. Oh, got a right, Jeannie Jenkins. Oh, what other colours of dresses could you wear? Oh, mother, would I wear my blue in the day? Oh, I would wear your blue, Jeannie Jenkins. Oh, yes, I'll wear my blue, mother, just to please you. So you'll buy me a roly poly, sugar alley, hokey pokey, got a right, Jeannie Jenkins. Oh, got a right, Jeannie Jenkins. Oh, and I'll buy ye a roly poly, sugar alley, hokey pokey, got a right, Jeannie Jenkins. Oh,
Hey.
That's one of my favourite songs. I like to sing that one. Now, this is a story of great adventure. It's supposed to be a true story, but how we know that, I don't know. If you go about 40 miles west in the car from me, you will pass about 5 or 6 castles. Believe it or not, proper castles with turrets and holes where they would have shot arrows and dropped boiling oil out of. Yes, somebody's telling me something. Is it Max? Oh, look, there's another. Oh, we've got another beautiful parrot, Louis. Wow. I do like seeing people's puppets.
It's nearly my birthday. After this day,
How old will you be?
Like after this day, I'll be 7. After tomorrow, just after tomorrow, I'll be. It'll be my birthday.
Cool.
Well, before the end, maybe we can sing happy birthday.
Yeah, I was going to say that at the end of the stories. Let's do a happy birthday.
It's Alex and Max's birthday on the same day.
Alex
it's on Monday.
And Max at the same day. That's
my brother.
Yeah, Alex, how old are you going to be?
The same day.
How old is Alex going to be? How old, Alex?
Alex will be 8.
You'll be 8. Well, it just so happens that the boy in my story was 8 years old when this story took place. So if you drive all the way out, you pass all these castles, and eventually you'll find yourself all the way out at a castle called Kindrochit. You kind of have to be Scottish to say it. So Kindrochit, not Kindrochit. Now, I don't know if any of you have heard of a king called Macbeth. He's one of the most famous Scottish kings. He was actually quite a nice guy. Don't believe what they tell you. Malcolm Canmore, who was the king before him, had a castle on an island in the middle of a loch. And you can still see the island to this very day. And whenever he came up to Scotland, he would stay on that castle, on that island, because it was a very safe place if other people were going to be attacking you. Now, it's not all hard, difficult work being a king. Sometimes they would get to do fun things. And what Malcolm Canmore, shall I tell you what Malcolm Canmore means? It means Malcolm with the big head. He had a really big head. He had a huge napper. Oh, what a size it was. What he liked to do most of all was go hunting. And he would get on a horse and he would have a bow and arrow and off he would go into the deep, deep forest and see what he could bring back for supper, because there was nothing he liked better than catching food for all his servants to eat. And one day he was out in the forest, and in those days there were 4 animals in Scotland that you don't get anymore. Number 1, the lynx, sort of wild cat, big cat. Number 2, the bear, for any of you that have seen Brave. Number 3, the wolf. And number 4, my favourite, the wild boar. And wild boars were like crazy, massive, great big pigs with sharp teeth and spikes all the way down their back. And that was what Malcolm liked to hunt the most. And one day he was out hunting and he shot the biggest boar you can imagine. And then he heard a noise. And that noise sounded, if you can imagine, like a pig crying. And he felt very, very sorry for this little baby. And he scooped it up and he said, this little piglet, which was so cute, so sweet, that the king thought it looked like a cute little baby frog. And so he called it Tad Losgan, which means little frog. And he took this little baby boar all the way back, not to his castle on the lake, but his other castle, the one I mentioned earlier, called Kindrochit. Now, to start off with, this pig with its great big tusks and its cute little fluff, it was so small, but you know what happens to little pigs? Little boars, they go bigger and bigger, and soon this thing was running round the castle, And Malcolm's wife, Margaret, she said, "This will not do. You don't just have wildlife running around our castle." So what he had done was there was down below Kinrochit Castle, there was a cave, and he had the cave dug out all round about. So here was a pit that Tad Loskin could live in. And then when he went away to do kingly stuff, to rule and things like that, he would leave the people of the castle in charge of feeding this beast. Now, it started off as a cute little baby boar, but like I said, it got bigger and bigger and bigger. And I want all the children to stretch their arms out as wide as they can, right? All the way as wide as you go. No matter how big your arms are, that would be about half the length of this boar because it was so big. So you can imagine that it needed a lot to feed. It needed so much food. So the people of the castle used to go around all the poor people and say, right, it's your turn to feed the boar. And it would eat all of the grain, or it would eat 20 chickens, or it would eat 15 ducks, or a whole cow. And that's where Sandy comes in. Sandy and his mother, they lived near Kinrochit Castle. And his father had been a wonderful archer, wonderful at shooting bows and arrow. He could have such good eyesight and such good skill that he could kill a duck flying through the air with an arrow from 100 meters away. And Sandy, he was very good at shooting arrows too. Now that there was just Sandy and his mother, he went out, and that was how he managed to get enough food for both of them. But they did have one thing. They had a cow. And the mother would milk the cow, and it gave good creamy milk. And she would take that milk and she would sell it at market, or make it into butter, or make it into cheese. And that was how they made sure that they had enough money. Until a soldier came. A soldier came from Kinrochit Castle and said, "You, Sandy's mother, it's your turn to feed the boar." And she said, "But I don't have anything to feed it with. If you give me some time, maybe my son Sandy can go out and shoot some rabbits." And Sandy was sitting by the fire, and what he was doing was he was making his own arrows. And he would do that, he would knock some stones together, particularly sharp kind of stone called flint, to get the arrow. He would get a long, straight piece of stick and attach it on, and then he would take feathers from the birds that he caught to make sure that it would fly straight and fast in the direction he wanted. And he was so good at making his arrows, he was very, very proud. And he would write his name, Sandy, along the arrows that he made. And he looked up from the fire and he said, "Certainly, mother, I will go out and I will catch 30 rabbits to feed the boar." And the soldier put his hand on his hips and he said, "It'll take you ages to do that. I'm taking your cow." How were they supposed to make any money then if somebody had taken the cow that gave them all their milk, that made cheese, that made butter? They would be left with nothing. But that soldier took their cow and away he went. Sandy was so angry about it that he said, I've had enough of this. I am an 8-year-old boy and I know that it's not right to do this to the poor people. They can't take all that we have like that, all to feed a big fat boar. I'm going to take my arrows and I am going to kill that boar tonight. And that night he sneaked out and he caught with one of his arrows a capercaillie. And a capercaillie is a beautiful bird that lives in the heather up in Scotland. And he took that capercaillie that he caught and he tied a piece of string around its leg, and with its second arrow, he waited until there was enough light for him to see, and he stood on the other side of the River Dee, the same river that I was telling you about earlier that goes past my house, and he fired the arrow all the way with the string attached and the capercaillie bird attached to that, over the river, all the way towards the castle and down, down, down into the pit with the cave where the great boar Tad Losgin lived. And he watched and he waited. And soon, now that it was morning, the boar woke up and he could smell the bird and it was hungry. And Tad Losgin came out of his cave and he saw the bird and he grabbed the bird and he started munching into it. And Sandy took the third of his arrows and he aimed and he fired. And the boar that would eat all the poor people's food was gone. It was dead. Quick as anything, Sandy grabbed his bow and he raced all the way back to his mother's house. Well, it just so happened that that day the king was arriving at Kindrochit Castle. So the soldiers went out to check and see how his favourite pet was doing. And of course the boar was lying there, lifeless. And they picked up the arrows, the arrow that had been on the bird, and the arrow that had killed the boar. And they said, "This belongs to young Sandy." And immediately 10 of them marched off in the direction of Sandy's house. And they reached the door and they banged on the door. And Sandy's mother went to answer it. And she said, "Oh, but Sandy, he's sleeping." Well, they went straight into her cottage and they pulled him out of his bed because he'd gone for a sleep after being up all night. And they said, "Did you kill the king's boar?" And he said, "Yes, yes, I did." "How did you know?" And they said, "You silly boy, you write your name on all your arrows." "Oh, well," he said, "the king should know better than to take food out of the mouths of the poor people." And they said, "Well, for this, the king will surely have you killed." And they started dragging him off back to the castle and they threw him in the deepest, darkest dungeon. But his mother, she was a brave woman. And she knew as well that the king was coming, and she waited by the road where the king would arrive, coming from the east. And as soon as the king came along on his horse, she jumped out in front and said, "Stop, your majesty, stop! Please, please don't kill my boy." "What is this, old woman?" said the king. "Why would I do that?" And she said, "Because he killed your boar." "He did what?" cried the king, and he flew into a rage. But the king's wife, Margaret, she said, "Let's go to the castle and find out what this is about." And when the king heard the story from young Sandy about how he had stood all the way over at the other side of the River Dee, he said, "I refuse to believe it. There is no way that an 8-year-old boy could shoot an arrow so well, right into the heart of the boar from that distance. I don't believe it." And Sandy said, "I'm sorry, your majesty, but you shouldn't have taken food from the people. And it was me, and I did do it." And at this point, Sandy's mum got down and she said, "Please, your majesty, please don't kill my boy." And the king said, "Right, take this woman, take her across the river and make her stand on the cliff on the other side where her son shot the arrow, and put this peat upon her head." And peat was just kind of like a lump of stuff that burns in the fire. And they took her and she was put all the way across the other side of the river. And somebody with eyesight like me, I wouldn't even have been able to see the woman. And they put the peat on her head. And the king said to Sandy, back at the castle, take an arrow. If you can shoot that peat off your mother's head, you and her will both live. And Sandy said, but if I miss, I'll kill my mother. And the king said, yes. Well, Sandy bent down and he took the arrow from the boar. But he also picked up the arrow that had been attached to the bird, the capercaillie, and he tucked it under his arm. And he gave the king such a look that people were distracted by that. They didn't ask him about the second arrow. And he got his arrow and he put it in the bow and he aimed it at the peat on his mother's head, and the arrow flew straight and it sailed across the river and it hit the peat. And it went right through the peat and the whole thing fell off his mother's head. And the soldiers couldn't help themselves. They were so amazed at this that they cheered. And everybody was happy and the king was impressed. And he said, boy, do you know what is more worthy to me than a boar? Would be an archer as my personal guard. Will you work for me when you grow old enough? But Sandy said, no, your majesty, I will not. The people need me here. Very well, said the king. I will give you a reward. When you are older, you will be the guardian of this area and you will work for the people instead of me. But tell me, he said, why did you pick up that second arrow? And at that point, Sandy turned and looked the king right in the eye and said, if I had missed, your majesty, the second arrow would have been for you. And all of the soldiers, they were horrified. He would have killed the king, but the king, which was Malcolm Canmore, he had a big head, remember? In more ways than one, he slapped his thigh and roared with laughter. And so it was that young Sandy, when he was older, became the protector of Kindrocket Castle and all the lands round about it, all because of this wee boar who someone thought looked like a frog, Tad Loskin. There you go.
Pauline.
I hope you like that one.
That's
One of my
lovely.
favourites.
Do you think we could sing Happy Birthday now?
Yes, shall we sing? Wait. I have a friend who's a very good singer, of course. John knows this.
Yeah.
Hang on.
Have
She's
you got
getting her
both of them
brother.
or just one? Fizzy?
Oh!
Fizzy and Fuzzy.
Yes, I'm so excited. Oh, look at that. Oh.
And who are the two people with birthdays tomorrow? There's Alan and
Alex.
Alex.
Wait.
Alex and Max.
Alex and Max.
Yes. So what will we do? We'll say Alex and Max. I think that's what we'll do.
Yeah. So we'll do Alex first. We'll do. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Are you going to lead? Because my voice is terrible and you can sing.
Yes. I'll sing. She thinks she's got a wonderful voice.
It's both their birthdays on Monday.
They're both on the
It's
same
Monday.
day. That's
It's Monday.
fantastic.
It's birthdays on Monday.
Both
So-
We'll sing it.
Well, we'll
3 days
pretend
early.
this is the sort of lead up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
allowed because it's lockdown and everything, and things are, we don't know what day it is
I
one
don't know
day
what
to
day it
another.
is.
We can have they can have really long birthdays, can't they?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Are you ready,
Are we
Pauline?
ready?
Yeah.
One.
Two. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy
birthday, dear Alex and Max.
Happy
Happy
birthday
Whoa. Whoa. That was a wonderful set, Pauline. Before you go, who likes music?
Me.
Who likes music? Well,
Me.
on Tuesday, which will be the day after Alex and Max's birthday, but they can have a really long 5-day birthday. At 6 o'clock, we've got Irish music for 3/4 of an hour with one of the lovely band that plays pipes and fiddles and squeeze boxes and maybe a banjo. So maybe if you like music, you can come to that, or just the same way as you came tonight, just log on to join meeting, and then you can all clap along during, and maybe have a little dance even. So,
Hey.
but Pauline,
Yes,
are you happy?
I am.
Are,
They've been a great audience.
are those two creatures with you happy?
Yes.
Delirious.
Are we all happy? Is Sam's iPad happy? Is Manuela's iPad happy?
Yay!
Is Louis' iPad? Oh, Louis, is your parrot happy?
I love the parrot and the monster.
Love the parrot.
I got 2 parrots and one
Karen, Lauren, Isabel, Jessica, all, and the thousands in that square. Are we all happy? And Max and Maya and Kirsty. And is our driver happy? Is Abdu happy?
Yes.
Good, good.
Thumbs up.
So we're all happy. So thank you for listening. Does anyone want to say anything to the puppets?
Yes.
The parents, I
Thank
mean.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening and joining in, everyone.
Thank you.
Lovely to meet you
Little
all.
Troy.
Mummy.
Calm down, Fizzy.
Thank you, Pauline.
Bye-bye.
Thank
We'll be
you.
dancing all
Bye-bye.
night.
Bye.
Bye bye, everyone. Thank you, John. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Abdu.
Bye. Bye.
We never asked Mike if he was happy. Are you happy, Mike?
See
Yeah,
ya.
that's okay.
Bye.
That's quite important. It's very
Bye.
Bye bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you, John. I'm gonna go and feed my after telling stories about food. I'm starving. So
Yeah.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
take care, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye.
Isn't that lovely?
Brilliant. Thank you very much again. I'll go and get my.
Thank you, Pauline. Bye.
Thank you,
Pauline. Bye. Right. Take care, John. We'll see you soon. Hopefully.
See you then.
Bye bye.
How are you feeling about space as a theme? I think you're
Space. I can totally do space. Pen me in for
Okay,
space when I get back.
I think just a sec. I'm just gonna see what I think
When is
space
it?
comes up quite late. And
I've got a space set.
I've just got to look. I'm just gonna look. I'm just going on to Mike's the messages and
Yes, I did.
hold on. Oh dear. No, you're not. You're not back. You're still on. You're still camping, I think.
What date's the space?
Well, it's about the 28th.
Of
Yeah.
July.
Yeah.
Still away.
You're still away.
Still away. I think we're going to be back. Right, I've got a hair appointment on the 5th.
Okay.
So,
do you like dinosaurs?
right. Dinosaurs is quite difficult. I've got. The Loch
Okay.
Ness
Would you
Monster
like
one.
Under the Sea?
Oh, Under the Sea. Give me Under the Sea. When's that?
Well, that's one. That's well into August.
Should be good.
Okay. So Under the Sea is yours.
Under the Sea. Excellent.
And that's the 2 o'clock in the afternoon one.
Uh-huh. Okay, what date is it?
I haven't worked. I just said, let me get my diary here. Excuse us, Abdu. We're just while I've got her,
Entertain
because
yourself.
otherwise it's a long walk from here to Aberdeen just to answer a question.
It's a long way.
Yeah, I've done it. I've driven it. Which took days, didn't it?
Yeah. It takes us 2 days to get
came
down.
on skis and everything. Okay, so when was that first one? The first one was I'm working from the front here. So 28th was the second one.
And then
All right,
you
if I
got
go
the
to the
fourth.
front.
Hi, Pauline.
Hi, Pauline.
Okay.
Hiya!
Hi. Who's your friend Abdu? Who's that with you, Abdu?
This is my son, Adam.
Hi,
Adam.
Adam.
Perfect. Perfect. So 28th is the second one. The fourth is just trying to keep all my tech together here. So under the sea is the 11th of August. You're well back by then, aren't you?
Yes. In theory, I have an event, but I really think it's going to be cancelled because it's vulnerable people. So I'll contact her. That'll give me a reason to contact. And
Okay, well, there's no hurry, but let me know, and I'm just going to write that down. That's yours, Pauline.
Because we're the year of coasts and waters up here this year.
Yeah. So under the sea sorts you.
Yeah.
But cancel out. I'll get someone else if not. So what did I say? The 11th.
Yeah.
Under the sea, and that's 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Excellent. And I'll find out about Ness.
Okay.
They're vulnerable adults, so I've got a feeling that'll be cancelled.
Absolutely. Right. I'm hoping the rest of the world isn't watching us at the moment while we have these private conversations.
Presumably not.
Okay, but I'm sure Abdu sort of just cut us all off from all that. Right.
Excellent.
Anyway, bye everyone.
Take care, everyone. Bye.
Thanks for driving, Abdu.
It's a pleasure.
Bye.
Thanks for being our bus driver.
Bye, John. Bye,
And
everyone.
you.
Bye.
Bye.